What is going on, guys? SteelTwins coming at you with another video with another mock draft post free agency after the Steelers have grabbed up some notable names, a lot of great names in free agency after having a hell of a start in free agency. It's kind of dimmed down a little bit right now, so we thought this would be the most appropriate time to throw out another mock draft after free agency, and we actually have a special guest with us today. Still Sentinel, how you doing, brother?
It's a good day to be alive, gentlemen. Great to be back on the show. It has been a very busy offseason for the Steelers. I feel like we've been on another planet. Every other day for like a week, it was like we signed another guy and another guy. I was running out of champagne to pop because we had so many guys we were signing.
Oh, I know the feeling. In fact, it's got me craving more, and it's got me a little impatient on what they're going to do at the safety position, man. I don't know what's going on.
I know everybody's like on the edge of their seat waiting to see like who we bringing back at safety, who we bringing in at safety. And I do think, as well as probably you guys, that they will sign a strong safety here coming up soon. I think it's their next move. I just think that they've been on the draft tour train, so they've been a little busy.
Yeah, exactly. So hopefully this upcoming week they start making some more moves and hitting that second wave and start addressing some of these other needs, such as safety. However, since they have not done that in our mock, at least, we have addressed safety in this mock. I'm very curious to know your mock, so I'll give you the honors to go first. Who do you have going 20th overall?
So real quick, just to give some context here for everybody listening and watching the show, the things that I'm going to incorporate into my mock, just to clarify. So I'm not going to be doing any trades. I really don't like doing any trades until after all the pro day stuff has died down. I'm only going to really be looking at players that the Steelers have scouted or looked into or have had dinner with, especially in that first round. Just in the past history with Steelers football drafting, they never really pick somebody in the first round that they haven't met with personally or gotten dinner with. And then, unlike you guys, which is going to be interesting, it'll keep it different and exciting, I'm not going to address the safety position because, you know, when Tomlin had his owner's press conference the other day with Kevin Colbert, they said that they have all the starters on the team that they want except strong safety, which to me is like a giant red flag saying, hey, we're bringing a safety in soon. So I'm going to assume that they do their homework and that they bring in a safety so that they don't have to draft one and add another thing that we need on the team. So that being said, the guy that I have them taking in the first round, I think that quarterback is a possibility. You know, they mentioned yesterday that if a guy were to fall to 10 that they like, whoever that may be, we don't know, they are willing to move some draft capital to get that guy. I personally don't think it's going to happen. I think that all the quarterbacks are going to be taken before 10. So that being said, a guy that I think has the potential to fall, his name is Mr. Jordan Davis.
Okay.
Interior defensive lineman from Georgia. His nickname is Godzilla, which I think is pretty freaking cool. When your name's Godzilla, when you're 6'6" and you move like a gazelle, that would be a monster to have in the interior defensive line. And a thing that we got to remember here, guys, is that Kevin Colbert and Mr. Rooney said that there are two things they wanted to address this offseason. Get better at the run, get better at stopping the run. They've addressed the first part by bringing in lots of free agent guys in that interior offensive line. James Daniels, Mason Cole. Now they got to get better at stopping the run. And yes, is it possible that Mr. Tuitt and Tyson Alualu come back? Absolutely. But I have less faith in that than I normally would. So I have them taking Jordan Davis. I know we've all talked about him a bunch in the past. He's going to be a starter for years to come. He's humongous. Mike Tomlin loves the guy. It's just a matter of, do we think he'll be there or not?
Yeah, because Tomlin said himself he thinks he's going to be hugging Goodell before pick 20. But I love the pick of Jordan Davis. He could be there, he could not, but the Steelers are absolutely going to scout a guy like him. He could be a best player available option for sure. A big boy like Jordan Davis alongside Cam Hayward, man, would be absolutely filthy and just adds on to them already fixing the front seven, which I love completely. Yeah, definitely, without a doubt. And it would make the defensive line a lot younger, too, because the defensive line is aging a little bit. So to get some more youth to that position would be stellar, very much. And I agree with you about the quarterback situation and about Tuitt/Alualu. Like, we would all welcome them back for sure, especially Tuitt, but we just don't know. And there's no clarification yet. And the draft is coming up, and at some point he's going to have to make a decision Otherwise, the Steelers are going to have to make a decision themselves.
Yeah.
And that's similar to what we did in this mock. You went a Georgia Bulldog, big boy on the D-line. We went the opposite guy, Devonta Wyatt. And the reason is because I feel like Devonta Wyatt is more of an every down player compared to Davis, because Davis didn't really see most of the snaps at Georgia. He wasn't an every down guy like they used him. Unlike Wyatt, who is, in my opinion, an every down guy, but is absolute just freak of nature at the rushing attack and absolutely brings upside in the pass rush for sure. And his size, man, he's a little undersized, I suppose, 6'3", just over 300, but he's a bully, man. He's got absolute incredible potential, great upside, and the tape doesn't lie, man. My only knack for Wyatt, though, is his age. He'll be 24 in just a few short days.
Yeah.
In fact, at the very end of March. So I'm not all for old-ass rookies, but a guy like Wyatt is just hard to pass on. Could be another best player available option. So you went a Georgia Bulldog big boy on the D-line and Jordan Davis, and we went Devonta Wyatt.
But hey, I think getting either Georgia Bulldog defensive lineman, I think it's a win-win regardless,
I'll take either.
Mm-hmm.
Now the second round, man. I'm very interested to see where you went in the second round. I'm going to assume it's receiver, but who?
I actually don't have a receiver here, and here's the only reason why. So, in my opinion, there's a big drop off from the receivers in round 1 into round 2. You have Olave, you have Wilson, you have Williams. Then you drop down into the second tier of receivers, who I think would be solid number 2s and 3s on anywhere on anybody's team. And the two guys that I like, who anytime I mock, they're never there, are a Sky Moore and a Christian Watson. They're two guys I really, really like in the second round. Outside of those two, there's not anybody I really particularly like in the second round receiver-wise. I'm not the biggest David Bell guy. Not saying he's a bad receiver, just personally not my cup of tea. And so I went best player available. And when I simulated this mock, it actually happened 3 out of the 4 times I did it. Mr. Boy Mafia was there at edge. And I couldn't not take him, and here's why.
Wow.
He's not going to replace Smitty. Let's clear the air right now. He's not going to replace Smitty. But to me, Boy Mafia at 6'4", 261 pounds, 261 pounds. He sets the edge brilliantly. He'd be a fantastic rotational piece with Smitty, Watt, and himself. And he himself has even gone on tape saying that he's all about speed. Who do we know in the Steelers organization that's no longer with us that was all about speed, who was a freak of nature, who was a very athletic guy? Mr. Bud Dupree. Imagine having a younger, better version of Bud Dupree, potentially, on that edge rotational team. Because, let's be honest, when TJ and Smitty were both injured with those groin injuries, which I felt like everybody last year had a groin injury. I don't know what the hell was going on in the locker room.
I know, right?
But everybody had a groin injury. We had Tuska and we had Taco Charlton. Now, Taco hasn't been re-signed yet. Tuska, I think, is still on contract with the Steelers. And they haven't made any really off-season moves to bring in a rotational guy. So there's a case to be made that Boy Mafia could go in the first round, because now that Ojabo had that ACL tear, there's a possibility that Boy Mafia scoots up into the first round or even early second round, like a Joker type player.
Yeah.
But if let's put it this way, if Boy Mafia is there, like he was for me in my mock simulations, there's no way I could pass up on him. In my opinion, he was the best player on the board at the second round for the Steelers.
Honestly, I don't hate it. I hate it.
I actually love the pick. Adds more to the defense, adds more to edge, because our edge depth is very, it's skinny right now. It's very bare. And our edge depth last year, we were literally playing hot potato with it the entire season.
I mean, think of how many names that came and gone at edge depth. So getting a pure guy like a Boy Mafia that could come in and be a phenomenal rotational piece and add more to the front seven and the run defense, I think that's a brilliant selection, man.
Someone that could remain there, that could stick there for 4 years, that would be that would be an exceptional pick. Honestly, that would be a hell of a pick. I would love the pick.
And I love it more so now that since the Steelers have so much flexibility, they could go best player available at a position like edge in the second round. I think that's brilliant, man.
That's great. Yeah, I like it.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. Now, in the second round, we actually did go receiver. Now, you did say there was a drop in receivers, and I agree there was a drop in receivers after guys like Sky Moore and Christian Watson and guys like that. I don't know how you feel about this guy. We went with another Georgia Bulldog. I think you already know who it is. Wide receiver George Pickens, 52. Now, I know he's coming off of an injury that limited him early last year, and he came back late and worked well in the championship game and still had a pretty good game himself. He's someone the Steelers showed a lot of interest in. You know the Steelers love to double dip at schools. That's why we go 2 straight Georgia Bulldogs here. And receiver is a serious need the Steelers have to address because Juju, Ray, and Washington are all gone. And George Pickens is a guy that can play inside and outside, or better yet, if you want to put his big body and his speed outside, you could obviously put Claypool and have a big boy slot option in Claypool.
Yeah, big mismatch right there. You know, you could really do a lot of mismatches when it comes to the wide receiver position a lot if you add George Pickens to the wide receiver group to this offense.
And I like his size. He could be a little more heavier, I suppose, for his size. He's 6'3", not even 200, so he could be a little bigger, but he plays a lot bigger than what his weight shows, man. He's physical. He has great hands, great concentration, really good speed, yak ability, good route running, and more to add, honestly. So I think George Pickens in the second round could be a very viable receiving option.
Yeah, and his injuries are a bit of a scare to me a little bit because he hasn't really had a full healthy season in quite a bit, but if he can remain healthy, I think he can be a dynamic receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I 100% agree. Kind of what you were just saying. I worry about injury, but there's some other guys. I don't want to, cut myself off quick here, but there are some other guys that I have in this draft coming up when we get to the later rounds here that have injury concerns. So injuries are always a concern, but here's the thing: the Steelers have doctors that are very, very knowledgeable and do their homework and look into these injuries and talk to the doctors that do surgeries on these players and things like that. And they do their own medical evaluations. So if the Steelers are showing interest in him, I guarantee you the doctors have either said like, hey, he's going to be okay, or hey, we can work with this. So I'm going to take my own worries out of it and leave it to the professionals. So if Pickens is there and he's the guy in the second round, I would not be upset with that.
Yeah. Now, personally, I would prefer Sky Moore. Sky Moore is my guy in the second round. Because I feel confident they're going to go receiver second round, and Sky Moore is my guy. I think he has all the connections just to be a perfect receiver, perfect slot weapon for sure, man.
Just a perfect story to go with him potentially being selected by the Steelers. I just don't know if he's going to be there for the Steelers' second pick.
That's my biggest worry, man, and I'm a big fan of Sky Moore. But in the third round, I'm curious to know where you went third round. I'd imagine it's receiver, or could I be wrong again?
No, you hit the nail on the head. I did go receiver, and this one was hard for me to choose because it's kind of like a three-parter. All wide receiver options. I'll tell you who my first, second, and third choice would be. The only reason I put 3 different guys on here is I think each one has something really, really great about them and then something that's a little bit of a concern. So the first guy, the guy that we'll say is like my definitive guy for this mock draft is a guy named Justin Ross from Clemson.
Okay.
Now, biggest concern is he had that spinal injury, which is a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
But even with that in mind, the Steelers went to his pro day. They had the wide receiver coach of the Steelers put him through a workout, so that's already a big thing. Remember, no one thought that we would get Pat Freiermuth last year, but Alfredo Roberts put him to the workout and really, really liked him. And lo and behold, boom, when he was available, they didn't even hiccup on the guy. Ross, yeah, like I said, his main issue is his injury concern to me. He's kind of Juju-esque to me. He's like 6'4", so he's a little bit bigger. He's only 205. He can play outside. He can play inside. He'd be an interesting guy to see mixed up within, the ranks of Claypool and DJ. I think he could add a similar type of like toughness. He's not the fastest guy, so he's not a trailblazer by any means, but he has a crazy catch radius. He's physical. He likes to block. My only concern with him is the spinal injury, because that's a pretty big deal. If the Steelers look at him and say, hey, the spinal thing ain't working for us, another guy I really, really like is Danny Gray. SMU wide receiver. He's more of that speed guy that I think could fit perfectly in Matt Canada's system. He's fast. He's only 6 foot. He would be mainly a slot guy. My main concern with him is, and you know this, the Steelers like all of their rookies to be able to play what? Special teams. Danny Gray rarely got any kind of reps at special teams at SMU, not to mention the fact that he hasn't had the longest productive history in college of being this amazing wideout. So I like him because of his speed, mainly. That's the one reason I really like him. He's a speedy slot guy.
Yeah.
And then if you wanted my honest opinion on who I think they'll pick. The only reason I say this is they haven't gone to his pro day yet. Do not be shocked if in the third round the Steelers took Taekwon Thornton from Baylor. I know a lot of people think that, whoa, that's a really big reach, but the Steelers always, quote unquote, reach at wide receiver. They always have. Everybody thought Juju was a reach.
Yep.
Everybody thought Claypool was a reach. Everybody thought Deontay in the third was a reach. So I think Taekwon Thornton's speed and his ability to be just that beamer down the side of the field, similar to like Martavis Bryant, could be something that they look into. We just won't know until the pro day visit and whether or not they're interested in him.
Yeah, I love a guy like Thornton because of his speed. He unofficially broke the 40-yard dash, even though that's not a great accomplishment if you look at the list. But the dude, man, he's more than just the speed. He has great ability. I'm sure the Steelers would just absolutely be attractive to him, especially a guy like Danny Gray as well, and Justin Ross. So I like all those options for sure, man.
Yeah, without a doubt, for sure.
And the other thing I want to add real quick before you hit your third-round pick is really outside of Deontay and Claypool, I mean, you could make the argument, yeah, Anthony Miller has some chemistry with Trubisky, but other than that, we don't really have anybody at wide receiver. We lost three main guys. Literally, our wide receiving core last year is now cut more than half. 2/3 of them are gone. And I think that this whole Gunner thing, like, oh, Gunner's the third guy now. Gunner is not the third guy. Gunner is going to do what Ray McLeod did. He's going to be that fourth or fifth option. He's going to be the gadget guy, and he's going to be a return specialist. He's not going to be the next wide receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
No.
Nor do I ever thought that Gunner would, fill that role. He's more of a return specialist.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But moving to the third round, man, let's see here. We go DB here. We go safety because we don't know the future or what it beholds for Edmonds or any of these free agents that we could pick up. So
yeah, strong safety, that spot's wide open right now.
It is wide open, and the Steelers have met with some of the top safeties. Lewis Seen, a Jaquan Brisker from Penn State, a Daxon Hill. None of those guys are our selection. We actually went with Nick Cross, defensive back out of Maryland. Now Sentinel, this. They love their Maryland guys. And although the resume isn't so fantastic, it's not really pretty because the last two safeties we drafted from Maryland was Sean Davis and Antoine Brooks, and they didn't really work out. But Nick Cross is cut from a different cloth, man. He gives me similar to when Darnell Savage came out of Maryland, honestly. But I think he's a much better prospect because he's 6 foot. He's 215 as a safety. He can work in the box. He can work deep. He can work in man coverage alongside tight ends and running backs. He can blitz like a motherfucker, dude. He's really good in the run support. I think he adds a lot of tools to pair perfectly at strong safety alongside Minka, and obviously has that Maryland connection that Tomlin and company just absolutely adore. So I think Nick Cross could be a very viable option in the third round if he's available, if they do not grab a safety before the draft. So that's why we put him in this mock. But Nick Cross is one of my favorites immediately, man. I was watching his tape yesterday, getting the clips ready for the mock, and I was like, yeah, I'm sold on this guy.
He's a guy that sticks out when you're watching that Maryland defense. Someone that's very physical, very fast, that can cause some turnovers, that has great, ability to blitz and get pressure on the quarterback if we were to do some of those safety blitzes, to which we experimented and did that with Edmonds. And I feel like we can do that with Nick Cross, and I think he's more than capable of filling that role at strong safety.
This guy's also a speedster for his size and for his role, which I think just adds more just attractiveness to his ability, and the fact that he covers so much range and so much field because of his speed, man. I think he's a game changer at the next level, honestly, if he's developed properly.
Agreed.
Now, moving to the fourth round. Where do you go in the fourth round, man? Because this is where we start seeing – I don't know where you're going to go. So where are you going in the fourth round, man?
So in round one, to recap, I went interior defensive line, then I went edge, then I went wide receiver. I have in the fourth round us taking Kobe Bryant, the cornerback out of Cincinnati. Now, he could be gone by here because, in my opinion, I think he's one of the best cornerbacks in the draft. But one thing you have to remember right off the bat is that he didn't get a lot of attention because he was overshadowed by his partner on the other side, who was Sauce Gardner.
Yes.
He was going to be a first rounder. And to me, Sauce is to Marcus Peters. He's kind of that big, splashy guy, whereas Bryant's more of an Ike Taylor. He's a pass breakup machine, very sticky. He's not super flashy. I guess you could even compare him to I wouldn't comp him in the sense that they're the same player, but similar to a Steve Nelson. He's sticky. He's not the most flashy guy, but he does his job. You won't hear him on the announcers most of the game because he's going to be holding his own on the fort. But remember, huge, Steelers had dinner with him. That's huge.
Mm-hmm.
That tells you they are really interested in him. And I think that if he sat behind Wallace and or Akilo, whichever side they put him on, and learned from one of those two, I think that maybe in the future, I think he'll develop better than, say, a Justin Lane. Because I think after this year, Justin Lane is gone. And I think Kobe Bryant immediately steps into that backup cornerback position. He has all the tools. He's that taller, longer, lankier, kind of J.C. Jackson build type of receiver, cornerback. And I just think that he offers a lot to the defensive backs position, because I know a lot of people think we should go cornerback earlier, but listen, Tomlin said yesterday, we have the starters at every position. Akilo and Levi Wallace are your 2022 starting cornerbacks. I don't know if they stay there the whole year. You know, they might get overshadowed by a Kobe Bryant if he came in and did amazing, or a Cam Sutton. So that's why I went cornerback.
Man, Kobe Bryant in the fourth would be an absolute steal. And I'm not going to lie to you, we actually contemplated that in this mock as well. But we ultimately went with a different position. We went linebacker here, but I want to get back on Kobe a little bit. I think he would be a phenomenal selection in the fourth, an absolute steal. I agree. I don't know if he'll actually be there, but certain guys drop for some reason. And when you look at the Cincinnati group this year, man, there is so much talent that's coming out that school this year. Desmond Ridder obviously leads all that, and so does Sauce Gardner. But Kobe Bryant is just one of those undermining guys that someone will absolutely grab late day 2, early day 3 and get a stud. And I think him with this very stacked corner core and pairing with Terrell Austin, who props to him for developing a lot of great guys for the secondary the last number of years. I think that's a great just match together.
Yeah, just a great add to the secondary overall. Kobe Bryant, I feel like, has the utmost potential out of just about anybody in this defensive back class. And you mentioned something about, you know, how he could be similar to Ike Taylor. You know, Ike Taylor was the same thing. He was a mid-round selection, and he sat underneath, I think it was Chad Scott and Deshae Townsend. And when he was fully developed, he came in, and he was actually a pretty dependable corner. So I can see Kobe Bryant being somewhat similar and having that type of similar story. And Kobe Bryant, I love the pick. I love the prospect. I'd be all in with the selection in the fourth round.
And plus, who doesn't love the name Kobe Bryant?
I hope he would be there. I really like the guy.
Dude, he is definitely one of the top favorites on, I think, all our lists for when it comes to DBs for sure. But like I said, we go linebacker here. We contemplated Kobe in our own mock, but we went linebacker. We went Brandon Smith, linebacker out of Penn State. Brian Flores and Jerry Olszewski went to their pro day, and they did not take their eyes off of this guy. So they're definitely radaring this guy. Is that a word? It's a word now. They're radaring Brandon Smith, absolutely, because we got Miles Jack. We got Devin Bush, who is playing on what I'm going to imagine the last year of his rookie contract. I doubt they pick up the fifth-year option. They still have Buddy Johnson, who they drafted in the fourth round last year. They picked up the tenders of Marcus Allen and Robert Spillane. But I think a guy like Brandon Smith brings so much to the table in terms of size, 6'3", 240, 250, and the speed. He has similar Minka Parsons speed. Obviously, he played alongside Minka Parsons at Penn State, and he held his own pretty well. And he did very solid last year, being that main linebacker when Parsons got drafted early by the Cowboys. So, he is a raw prospect. I'm not going to lie to you.
He's got a lot of speed and a lot of talent to him, but he is extremely raw as of this moment. But
yeah.
if you were to get him under a coach like Brian Flores and have him, you know, learn and develop under Brian Flores, to which he has a phenomenal resume when it comes to linebackers.
Or even under the tutelage of a Miles Jack, for sure, as he's going to play that leader role at the linebacker position.
Yeah, you know, I think that could be very beneficial for Brandon Smith in his career in the NFL and overall.
So I think his speed, his size, and match it with his coverage ability and the potential at him at the rushing attack for sure, and even as a blitzer, because he has the speed to do it, and he's a hard hitter, so I think he has the upside for sure under proper development to be a solid number 2 option down the road if it comes down to it. So Brandon Smith would add special teams ability, depth, and could be a very nice development. Now, we don't have a 5th round pick because I believe we traded that for Akello Witherspoon, which is just an absolute steal at this point. So good on Colbert for that. So now we move to the 6th round. Who do you go in the 6th round, man?
So again, we see a theme here. Another player that the Steelers had dinner with. They like him very, very much. He comes from a school that we took a middle linebacker from not that long ago. I have them taking Joshua Ross, the linebacker from Michigan. Like you said, you set this up perfectly for me, so thank you. I don't think they pick up Bush's option unless God knows what happens. I think that both Miles Jack and Bush kind of do the same thing. They're coverage guys, so it'll be interesting how we see them work together this year. But I think that Joshua Ross brings you Vince Williams type potential. He is a heat-seeking missile. He is 6'2", like 200 plus pounds, and he is a thumper. He is the definition of a thumper. He is going to clog up your run lanes. He is not a coverage guy. He is specifically a thumper type player. Like I said, the Steelers like him. They met with him. I think if they drafted him this year, he could compete with, Buddy Johnson and even Marcus Allen for that final roster spot. Maybe he even goes to the practice squad, which wouldn't be the end of the world considering this is the 6th round. Steelers fans have to remember that every person you pick in the draft isn't a starter, and not all of them are going to make the 53. Sometimes you draft them, they go on the practice squad, and then they come back. So I would love to see him crack the 53. I think that a guy like Marcus Allen, brings vet depth, but he could compete with a guy like Buddy Johnson and see which one of the two gives you that late round talent ability to be that linebacker of the future. We just don't know with Buddy Johnson. He was on the bench pretty much all year last year. I think he had 1 or 2 snaps in the regular season. But I like Joshua Ross. And another thing we have to remember with him is that he was the leader of that defense for 2 years. So that's a huge thing. When you have a leader of the team for 2 years, now being put onto your team, you have faith that he could be the leader. He could be a Devin Bush one day, maybe, in the sense that he could help run that team.
Absolutely. And the Steelers and Tomlin and company are just, I'm going to say this word again, they're attracted to players like that. They love their leaders on the defense, and I think this guy would be an immediate thumper for sure, like you said, on special teams. So I like the depth ability, man, and I like the potential he has for sure. So you go linebacker 6th round. So it's funny because you went corner 4th round, we went linebacker 4th. Now you go linebacker 6th. We go corner in the 6th. So we kind of swapped the positions here. And in the 6th round, we actually selected a cornerback. Damari Mathis from Pittsburgh is someone, they went to the Pittsburgh Pro Day. It's someone they've been interested in as well, because that's the theme here. We're going to keep it going with guys they've went to the Pro Day with, that guys they met with, guys they're interested in. So we go Damari Mathis here, a guy I think has potential to play inside as a slot weapon. He could play outside, but more so as a slot weapon for sure. But I think he has the physicality and the stickiness and the ball tracking ability to be a very nice depth piece, and could battle with Justin Lane for, I suppose, a roster spot right now, because Lane honestly is nothing more than a special teamer, but I think Mathis could very well battle him for that and possibly make a shot for the 53 and then be a nice development and may possibly see time in the slot, because Sutton's in the last year of his contract. We know Norwood's just a dime backer / backup at free safety, so I think this guy could see time as a slot weapon if he develops properly in the next couple of years.
Yeah, definitely. I have to agree.
Plus, I think he has the speed for his size, which is very, very, very desirable.
And that's something that you would want in a slot receiver, too. If he were to be developed right, if he were to, work his way up, work really hard and potentially fight for a 53-man roster and see how he progresses in his young NFL career, he could be something, potentially. But as a solid depth piece initially, I'd like the pick.
Now we go to the 7th round, where we have 2 7th-round picks. So where do you go with the first 7th-rounder?
I know I'm gonna get a lot of slack for saying it this way, but I'm gonna approach this draft pick the way Mike Tomlin would say it. He would say, the 7th round, we pick Connor Hayward, offensive weapon, Michigan State. Connor Hayward is exactly that. He is an offensive weapon, similar to how we got Norwood in the 7th, who Mike Tomlin called him a defensive Swiss Army knife, similar to a Jalen Samuels, which we took back in, I think, the 5th round. They called him a Swiss Army knife. Connor Hayward is like Matt Canada's wet dream for a player that can do everything on offense. He can kick return. He is an aggressive and willing blocker. That man puts on some blocks. He can be a wide receiver. He can go as a tight end. He can be a fullback. He can be a running back. He, to me, fits. He's like all of your needs in one guy. You could have him on the depth or be your 3rd tight end, but he could still do all of those other things, similar to how George Kittle is technically a tight end, but they have him do screens and they have him do stuff out of the backfield and stuff like that. I know he gets a lot of slack because he's not fast and he's slow. But listen, he fits Mike Tomlin's NFL bloodlines. He loves his NFL bloodlines. Cam's on the team, which I think Mike Tomlin would love that. He's great for Matt Canada's system. Mike Tomlin loves his offensive weapons, and he did a workout with Alfredo Roberts, the tight end coach. And I already told you the last time they did that, they took Pat Freiermuth. So some people believe he could be a 6th-round guy. I don't think so. I think his draft 40 time and things like that, his size and kind of height are going to make him fall a little bit. And I also played with the idea of taking like a Master Teague here. But I really think that Connor Hayward is a guy that could do it all for this team. Great special teams guy who has like tight end 3, RB 2/3 potential, and you could literally scheme him up to do anything you want on this offense.
Yeah, I think we can all agree that at some point this draft class, whether that's 6th round, 7th round, undrafted, whenever, this guy is going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. It's going to happen. And he should be a Pittsburgh Steeler because I think we are the team that can bring the most out of a guy like him, where I know he has a role in this league and I know we can utilize the best of it. You're right. He anywhere you put this guy, he just produces, man.
Yeah.
I mean, he comes from the Hayward bloodlines. He's Cam's younger brother, but he's just a natural football player, man. He's a natural hard worker. So wherever you want to put him, man, the guy will absolutely work his hardest.
Yeah, he will definitely try his best to make a play, whether that's making a block, catching a pass, running the ball, trying to get a touchdown, whatever. You know, Connor Hayward is very passionate when he's on the field, no matter where you put him. I think he has the talent to be another Kyle Juszczyk for the 49ers. I really do.
That'd be something, man. That'd be something for this offense for sure. Now, something that would be something for this offense would be a number 2 running back that we can actually trust and use properly and try to limit Najee. Or at least, help out Najee is the better phrase I'm going to use. So we go running back in the 7th round. Now, I'm not for day 3 backs just due to our resume, but there's a few exceptions, and this guy is absolutely one of those exceptions. Ty Chandler, running back out of North Carolina. He transferred from Tennessee to North Carolina after North Carolina lost both Javonte Williams and Michael Carter last year in the draft, and absolutely broke out in yardage.
He made the most out of his playing time in North Carolina.
He finally got that full-time starting gig in North Carolina behind Sam Howell at quarterback and ran for 1,000 yards. He was used as a receiving weapon. He has return specialist ability. This guy is another example of wherever you put him, he'll produce. I think he has complete tools to be a very nice number 2 somewhere in this league. And with the Steelers, man, that's something we need. He has great speed, which we need as a running back too. We need a nice complementary back, but he has the physicality to run kind of similar of honestly like Elijah Moore or Elijah Mitchell actually. Elijah Mitchell, he kind of gives me Elijah Mitchell vibes as this year's Elijah Mitchell, a possible late round pick that could be a very nice complementary piece in an offense somewhere for sure. So he's a guy that can run. Good vision, very good balance, very good physicality, man.
And although he's not the biggest running back, he's not afraid to be physical.
No, he's not, but he also has receiving ability. He works good in pass pro. He has return specialist ability. I think this guy has a lot of tools that he can bring to the team to be a very nice complementary piece as a number 2 back.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely have to agree.
Now in the 7th round,
I love it.
Yeah, see, because I don't know how you feel about a guy like Ty Chandler, man.
To be honest, I don't know the most film about Ty Chandler, to be quite honest with you. Usually running backs, the like latest round running back I think that I've done an extensive amount of research on would be Pierre Strong, but he's like a 5th round, 6th round guy. But I'll have to look up more about Ty Chandler. I know of him, but I don't know a lot of his tape. So you stumped me. I want to go check him out. He sounds very interesting.
Yeah, I think once you see this tape, you'll see Elijah Mitchell type similarities, man. I think you'll absolutely fall in love with a guy like Ty Chandler, man. He'll be absolute steal in the late round for anybody.
Oh, without a doubt.
Now, with the 2nd, 7th round pick, the final pick in this mock, where do you go, Sentinel?
So again, I mentioned how I think the Steelers are going to address safety in free agency here. Hopefully, maybe by the time you're listening to this on YouTube, the Steelers might have already gotten that safety. So here I'm just filling in depth. I brought in a guy named Smoke Monday, safety out in Auburn. He is a hard-nosed old school Steeler player. I think a little too much sometimes. I think he needs to learn how to keep that head up, or else he's going to get flagged.
Yeah, his targeting penalties is a little bit of a concern, but I love the potential the guy has as a special teamer, as a rotational guy.
Yeah, he just needs to learn how to keep that head up. I think he'd be a great special teams guy because that's what seventh rounders are for the Steelers and for most teams. They're special rounders. He'll probably not even crack the 53. He might just be on the practice squad, which is great. Learn how to keep that head up. But I think as like a backup who he's kind of small, I think he as a backup safety would be great. He could also maybe be that dime backer similar to Trey Norwood because he does like to be very aggressive and physical. But again, seventh round, you're not really looking for starters. You're looking for backups and special team guys and practice squad guys. And I think his potential, if he learns how to just correct that head, that targeting stuff, I think he could be very, very interesting.
Yeah, I agree completely. I would love him as depth as a special teams weapon and should continue his development for sure.
And just add more to the safety group too, because our depth isn't really too keen there. So adding another safety would be very beneficial for the safety group for the defense in general.
Absolutely. And we kind of go somewhere similar, only we go offensive line here. Obviously, the Steelers don't need to go offensive line early no more, knowing they picked up James Daniels, Mason Cole. They locked up Chucks for at least another year, if you look at it from a cap standpoint. But so the O-line isn't necessarily a big need, which I love. Thank God they addressed it via free agency. Thus, we don't got to focus on the draft. We can focus elsewhere. But I feel like we could still use some tackle help.
Because the only guy we got, notably, is Joe Haig at tackle for depth.
Joe Haig and Chaz Green, I guess, if you want to count him.
I forgot all about him.
If you want to count him as an experienced body, for sure. But this guy could come in and be a developmental swing guy. Similar to, like you said, with Smoke Monday, he might not crack the 53 immediately. He might be a practice squad development, but I think that'd work wonders for a guy like Luke Tenuta, offensive tackle from Virginia Tech. He started both sides of the tackle position at left and right. I think he started last in 2019 and 2020. He started at right tackle, and last year he started the majority of his games at left tackle. So he has that position flexibility that the Steelers absolutely love in their offensive linemen, especially in their tackles. They have that swing ability. This guy could be a young stud development guy behind Moore and Chucks to just pretty much be that dependable depth option.
Yeah.
So that's how I see a guy like Luke Tenuta for now, but could be a nice developmental piece on the line for sure, for depth-wise. But other than that, man, I think that is the end of both our mocks, bro. I got to say, your mock looks really, really really good, honestly.
Thank you. I can say the same about yours. And I think it's interesting that both of our mocks have us taking similar positions. It's just how we value them differently. And I think that's important when looking at, your mock draft as opposed to Jedi's mock draft, as opposed to Logic's mock draft. Everybody's going to have similar types of drafts, but they're just going to be a little bit different, which tells you that, one, all of us know that we all know the Steelers need as a fan base. I think that's really important. And two, I think it just shows you that we all have our own little personal spin and flair on our mock draft. So, nobody's wrong. No one needs to dive into the comments and say, your draft is absolute trash, blah, blah. No, it just means that we all got different opinions. That's all.
And that's a great aspect to look at, especially for mock draft season, man. This was a lot of fun. Glad we could do it again for another year, bro. I think we're going to make this a yearly thing for sure. Just get together and just share mocks and share opinions. But you're right, man. We all have the same opinion on what positions the Steelers must focus on. That's a great thing. But in terms of value, I think that's a greater aspect when it comes to discussion. So
yeah,
this was fun, man.
A lot of fun. I enjoyed it a lot. I really did.
And I appreciate you for coming on again for another mock draft season, man. And the draft is coming slowly but surely, man.
Yeah, no, thank you. It's always a pleasure. We've been doing this for a couple of years now, man. It feels like forever ago we started these, but thank you always for having me on as a guest. It's always a pleasure. I always love watching your content and seeing you guys grow and evolve and get a bigger fan base and stuff like that. So, take it easy, gentlemen. Keep your chins up.
I appreciate it, bro. And
Thank you.
Same to you, boss. I really appreciate it. But we shall see what the Steelers do, hopefully this upcoming week as they, fingers crossed, fix and fill some other positions, which gives us a little more understanding of what we can do with these future mocks as, April is coming around and the NFL draft is just one short month away, which is, I don't know about you, Sentinel, bro, but this time is flying by, but I guarantee you this last month's going to go slow as hell. It might just be me.
Oh, It's going to be extra slow. March always flies by, and then April we crawl into the month of May. We're literally like crawling into May. So
it absolutely drags. But you know what? I'm excited for it. It's here, man. It's creeping up. But let's know your guys' thoughts and your guys' mocks down below, man. We'll come out with another mock in, I think, 2 weeks, which will be very interesting to see where we go. And hopefully the Steelers make some moves, which will hopefully give us a little more clarification, especially at a position like safety. But let us know your guys' thoughts. Shout out to Sentinel again for joining us, man. Always a great conversation to share mocks and split opinions, bro. Always great. Thank you again. And otherwise, you can join us for the peace outro, bro. Rob, you can sign us out.
And like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you later.
Peace!